Thank you so much for joining the interview segment of New Dawn today, Wednesday, the 24th of December 2025. And of course, this morning we're looking at a security situation, which of course is something that has been mostly talked about, which is kidnapping. You have the SBM Intelligence releasing its annual report on kidnapping, and of course says at least 4,722 people were abducted across 997 kidnapping incidents, demanding a ransom estimate of 48 billion naira. You have this most recent one, which happened in Niger State, talking about mass abduction now, trying so much to also give us a little controversy in the course of the end of the year. And of course, it's reignited national and international concern over the country's security challenges. And that is why we're looking at this particular topic today, Nigeria's kidnapping crisis, and whether what the security agencies are doing are enough or they are not enough. What the people are saying, the different angles to these kidnapping stories. That's why we are talking about it this morning. And to do justice to this particular topic, we have a security expert joining us. Is Ademola Adewusi. Thank you so much, Ademola, for joining us today on the program.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
I won't be doing this alone. My colleague is in the studio, Moses Ojomi.
Yes, good morning, Simiat, and of course, thanks for joining us, Mr. Ademola Adewusi. Well, we're looking at Nigeria's kidnapping crisis, and yes, we have a lot to unpack. Yes, Mr. Adewusi, I would like to know how come we witnessed an increase in kidnapping, I think, in the past few weeks. Some claimed it was because of Donald Trump's claim that there was Christian genocide allegedly, but do you subscribe to that? How come we thought the Nigerian government or the military were winning the war?
Okay, first is any analysis that isolates kidnapping from the existing framework of Nigeria's current security challenges is very incomplete. It's incomplete and not nuanced enough to understand what we're facing. First, we must understand what is happening in the Northeast and the Northwest. It is not only about banditry, about terrorism, but it's also about kidnapping. It's about ungovernable territories. It's about people bringing arms and ammunition into this country that is not in the hands of the state. Now, once this happens, we're going to see this as being used to terrorize, and kidnapping is also a form of terror. Now, the internal security arrangement of Nigeria is suffering currently because we are fighting several people or several fronts. That's one. Second is the fact that I don't know how we have not been able to embrace security and technology-enabled intelligence within our security architecture. Third, for me, the fact that our borders are still porous. Now, if you take all of these together and you come to the season we are in, number one, we are in December where there is a lot of movement. We are also in December where a lot of people who have not done any work during the year at least want to spend money during the year. So, we are always going to see a fight in criminal activities during this period. That's one. And because of increased traffic, within the country, we are also going to see opportunistic crime. That's one. That's two. So if you take all of this together, it shows that we need to go back. And I've always said this at every forum that is given an opportunity, that there are so many things wrong with our current security architecture. The government is trying to do a few things about it. The current withdrawal of police mobile force personnel from VIP is one of the steps that the government has taken in the right direction. But I think we need to become a bit more intelligent, more technology-led in our intelligence gathering. And I don't see that happening for now. we're still analog in terms of our operations, mostly where the people who are doing it have become very sophisticated. Most of the kidnapping incidents that have been proven to now, the people now use GPS to mark the location and their IP address and call using WhatsApp. And the Nigerian police is still waiting for them to call before we can. So there is so much to talk about this. There are so many things to talk about it. But the point is, we are not doing enough to secure the citizenry, and there is so much that can be done that has not been done so far.
There has been different push, different quarters. Some said why we still have it in treason is basically because there are no laws that really could stop them from doing what they are doing. So prosecuting kidnapping, like it has been said, is not really giving the adequate pressure on the people doing it to be able to drop it, which of course was the reason that there was a push to classify kidnapping as terrorism by the Senate. Of course, a debate, that was led by the Senate leader, Opeyemi Bamidele, which they're actually trying to push a bill to make acts of kidnapping an act of terrorism. I don't know if that particular law, if it scales through, can it really deter the kind of issues that we have with the dynamics of kidnapping that we have in Nigeria as we stand?
Okay. I think one of the best ways to look at this is to realize that Nigeria has laws for at least 90% of the human situation that will exist in terms of criminality. Nigeria has laws for this. Nigeria has laws for things ranging from forceful entry to somebody's house, to abduction, to kidnapping. They have the laws, but the problem is, it takes a while before the law catches up on anybody. People have been jailed for kidnapping Nigeria. You remember the case of Evans, it's a little kidnapper. He was jailed and he's still in jail till now. But the problem is, before he was jailed, before he was caught, a lot of people had died. A lot of people had been kidnapped, and a lot of people were dispossessed of their valuables because he was collecting money in pounds and euros. So, the laws exist. Instead of spending time debating whether we should classify it as terrorism or classify it as opportunistic crime, I think what the people in the Senate should be doing is trying to support the security agencies in ensuring that if something moves out here now, the Nigerian police are not just on the road to collect 200 naira. They can be quickly supported by Joe. They can be quickly supported by people who can use formal images to check. The kidnapping industry is not an easy industry. Number one, you have to take somebody against his will. Two, you have to transport that person. The logistics is crazy. You have to take that person on a trek through some, unfamiliar terrain before you can actually now keep that person, before you can actually warehouse that person. You have to keep dining food for that person. And these are patterns that can be detected by technology. So I don't think it is in the law. The letter of the law is clear. It is illegal to take a human being, to take that human being to dehumanizing conditions against his will, and then ask his family, his or her family, to bring money. So I don't think it is in the letter of the law. It is the provision that should be made for security agencies to become more effective at any detection of incidents like this, and also be able to deter. If you look at the Lagos Ibadan Expressway some time ago, the issue of kidnapping was right. But the governor of Ogun and Oyo State decided to put boots on ground along the Lagos Ibadan Expressway, every 5 kilometers on both sides. And they were so strategic about it. Every tangential route that led up to the Lagos Ibadan Expressway, the governors of Ogun and Oyo State put an Oteku people, they put the military, and that's how they solved the issue of kidnapping on that way. So you see, We cannot do all of that. We got 300,000 men in Nigerian police. We have to start thinking of technology. And that technology exists, but the Nigerian Senate is not looking at making those solutions so that we can, we can stand the side of kidnapping. And let me say this, a lot of the kidnapping that is going on now is very local. I remember listening to Governor Chukwumasobido, and he was saying that out of the 100% of the people who were arrested in Anambra State for either kidnapping or killing other people, 99% were Igbo. In the Ekiti State, 99% of the people who were arrested for kidnapping other people were from the Ekiti State. There are incidents where you have a snatching of somebody's phone, but we need to pack all of this and put it under Fulani headline. So it is clear now that there is a mushrooming industry that is happening, which means that we have to be community-led in terms of intelligence and then use technology to select out with NIN and the registration of our phone numbers with the telecoms operators. I don't see any reason why anybody should be able to call and ask for ransom, and they will not be able to, use a trace, a digital trace that allows the security forces to be able to pick up that.
Okay.
That is a big black.
Okay, Mr. Dewusi. Just 2 days ago, we had that 130 abducted Niger State school children were released, and we're also seeing, even those kidnapped the other time, the school children that were kidnapped the other time too, they have been released. But what about the apprehension of the kidnappers? So in as much as, yes, the Ghana government has tried to get these kids released, then we didn't hear of any arrest of these kidnappers. What kind of approach is that? In as much as they are interested in ensuring that these school children were released, but what about the kidnappers too?
Okay. Things like this, when I hear about mass kidnapping and abduction of children in school, it is sad, but it is funny. And I'll tell you why. 130 people, children, cannot be taken away from a school without adequate logistics and planning. The average coastal bus will take about 50 people. If I want to take more than 30 children from a location, I need at least 3 coastal buses. For the victims alone, I will then need at least maybe 4 Hiluxes to take 20 men who will then be able to abduct the children. To keep 130 children in a place is not easy. I have to feed them, and to feed them and give them water and make sure they have recourse to sanitary conditions tells me something. The communities where this happens, or nearby communities, know the people who are doing this. And I say that boldly. Try and take 10 people and put them in the room, not talk of children who are restless. Now, somebody has to go and buy food for 130 people. Somebody has to bring water for 130 people. That tells you that there is complicity between either that community in which it happens or a nearby community. This tells you about elite cooperation. I usually find it only when the kidnappers can broadcast 30 minutes of video. Where do they see the network? So, when you look at the fact that the government sees this thing in a very non-kinetic way, they say there are kinetic ways of doing it and there are non-kinetic ways of doing it. It means if we are not talking about punishment for the people who are adopted 130 million people, it means ransom was paid. And when you pay ransom, it means you are incentivizing people. You are seeing it especially in the north where you see members of the elite who know they are our children. We shouldn't deal with them like that. They should not be criminalized. They should not be killed. And it is clear to everyone that if you tell us that 130 children have been free, from where? Where did somebody pick 130 children?
All right.
It's an average of, so we have to be very careful when people tell us these things. And I think the first always was to ask questions. So, where are the perpetrators of this and where are they going to come?
Okay, some have talked about politicization of kidnapping, and yes, some have talked about the most recent one. We're talking about the school abduction, which of course took place in this particular school, St. Mary Catholic School, Niger State, in November precisely. Some said, like you have also alluded to, that there is complicity, if not for the community, maybe it was deliberately done. You know, some are even assuming that most of these things are things that are done to put the government in bad light, and of course those assumptions will not disappear because of the logistic issue that you have also talked about. So beyond the complicity, the politicization of kidnapping, it also talk about ransom payment, which of course is one big reason why it's looking more like a trade for anybody involved in it. And you look at the security agencies' reaction. You know, there was a report also with respect to that particular one, that there was an intelligence report, you know, saying that an abduction is going to take place, and few hours after the military men that were deployed to that location left the scene, it took place, and people started asking questions: who actually ordered the army to actually leave the location, and which of course resort to the kidnapping. You know, those are incidences that we have, almost all the time. And people that have been kidnapped are also talking about when you call the police. In fact, sometimes they encourage you to pay ransom. And you ask yourself, why should it? In fact, there was a friend of mine in Benue State that his wife was kidnapped. He is a retired custom officer, and at the end of the day, what he was able to tell me was that he met, he had to call the commissioner of police of that particular state, and of course, he gave him a tactical team's contact that they would, and they were telling him that they know where they are keeping his wife, but that he should just cooperate with the guys and pay the particular ransom. Those are things that are really fueling the reactions of people in Nigeria, saying that the complicity is enormous. Not really politicians alone, that the security agencies, it seems that some of them are also complicit in this. So how do we strike a balance? How do we ensure that the people that are really working to ensure there is peace and security in Nigeria are not the same with those sabotaging, the efforts of those ones?
Okay, I think there is a reasonable trust deficit between Nigeria and the security forces, especially the Nigerian police. And we cannot wish away this trust deficit because there have been instances where senior officers in the Nigerian police have been dismissed for selling arms, if not to kidnappers, to bandits, or other people who are the bad guys on the other side, with whom the police want to have focus. Second is the fact that in several instances, policemen have been arrested for being members of kidnapping gangs and for providing intelligence to the kidnapping gangs as well. So when you have this mixture of the oil and the water, it means that state has a problem. The average Nigeria cannot walk up to a policeman and say, my wife has been kidnapped or my husband has been kidnapped, with any kind of confidence that they're going to do the solution. A friend of mine was kidnapped in Ekiti, in Aramako, and the anti-kidnapping squad in Ekiti was quickly scrambled. And if you know the terrain of Aramako, you will know that you could not have been moved beyond the state within that hour that in which the first thing that they said was that maybe we should pay the ransom so that they don't harm him before we get to We hired a private investigator who was able to locate one of the numbers that was used to ask for for ransom. The police could not apprehend it. So the family ended up paying 31 million for him, for my family, and then another 12 million for his chief who was apprehended. So we are seeing that on one side, most the elite or the natives in a particular community are complicit. Then you are also seeing security people are giving the image of protection, abandoning their food. And you think it happens severally. It happens in Chibok. Where people were simply, guarding the school, providing security for the school, were abandoning their food. And suddenly the boys would come and we saw it even within the city of Abuja. I mean, what is it called? The correctional center, the correctional center was taken over by the Quora for an hour. And some of their fighters liberated because the people were supposed to be providing backup security for the Nigerian correctional system were not on site. And people were. Another problem we're seeing is that recidivism, that is people going in and out of prison, is swelling kidnapping. I'll give you an example. When you leave prison now, you can't get a job because everybody has it on their form, their application form, that are being convicted by a competent court of justice. Once you say yes, nobody touches you. So these people are not reformed enough to be able to hold the job together. And the reform guys within the prison and come back and start to kidnap people. Most of the people that have seen, most of the guys that have been arrested, you will see that they have some ex-convicts are usually the focus of that thing that shows that they continue with their criminal activity. So these are things we need to look at. The criminal gangs are now close and in cahoots with the police in most instances.
Okay, now it was yesterday when the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, said POS operators are being used to pay ransoms to terrorists. And when one hears things like this, it's very appalling that yes, we could get to a point where POS operators could be used to perpetrate these evil acts. So in terms of technology, what do you think the NSA, the service chiefs, the military organogram or the security organogram of Nigeria should be looking at right now?
Okay, I think the CBN has come up with something about 2 months ago. The CBN has decided to geolocate and geofence all POS devices in Nigeria. Meaning you have to register your business address, and within 30 meters of that business address, your POS will not work. If you take it, because what the kidnappers have done now is to get POS licenses using legitimate businesses, and they now carry it around when they want to collect ransom. Be that as it may, I commend the effort of the CBS. But be that as it may, it still doesn't tell you that somebody should be able to go to a bank and withdraw 51 million. Yes. And be able to give it to a POS person, and that person cannot be traced. As far as I grew up early in my life. I grew up in Lagos, and I remember that the police used to have what is called a traceable note that you would give to somebody, and the police will know when they get there that this is our money. I'm going to see the Nigeria police go back to that. And so this is 250 million in traceable notes that Nigeria police have. And I'm going to see the Nigeria police being able to follow somebody who is going to deliver ransom with a distant drone, and be able to know this is where we are, this is where the guys are, this is where the people who want to collect the money are. So for me, there is so much technology to be explored, and there is so much technology to be used to ensure that people do not take calls, they cannot be tracked, and people do not collect money without anything to locate who this person is. So POS operators have a number, they have an account number, they have a device number, and if the CBN goes ahead with geolocation, they also have a geolocated address. So how come we cannot pick up on that?
Okay, we have the different dynamics to the report of kidnapping. You know, you say it's now local. The people that does the kidnapping most of the times are really people that they know who they are kidnapping, or somebody gives an intelligence report about them. You now have husbands, you know, being kidnapped, wives being kidnapped by husbands, and of course just to get money from the people. You have a pastor being kidnapped just for the members of the church to actually, pay off the ransom. And some are looking at this, especially with the narrative that President Trump brought into it, that it's Christian genocide. You have kidnapping taking place in churches. Of course, the choir incident is also very recent. And some are saying that it's really about the people that can actually afford ransom payment. And it's not really, I saw a video of one Afar saying that it's about the economy of kidnapping itself. It's not really about the religion. How do you differentiate that with what you're seeing, you know, the attacks, the kidnappings that take place in churches? How do you put a firm footing and say that this is really not about religion and it's really about the economy of kidnapping itself?
Okay. We must be able to delineate between kidnapping as a tool of terror and kidnapping for commercial purposes. If you look at the choir incident, it was more of kidnapping as a tool of terror. We want to terrorize you. And as much as I've seen a lot of things where people have ascribed this to Christian genocide, I'm a Christian. But what I see is that there are patterns that will correlate. But we must not see that because they correlate, caution is obviously there as well. There are places where Muslims have been kidnapped. There are places where Muslims have been armed. The issue is what I just described. There is a localized mushrooming market for kidnapping. This is happening in every society. It's happening in Ibadan. Two people were kidnapped recently, and people paid ransom and they were returned to. Somebody within their immediate environment provided the access, provided their logistics, provided their coordinates, and obviously benefited from the ransom. But then there is also the opportunity crime. You are going on an expressway, something happens, you are kidnapped, then there is the plan. Kidnapping as a tool of terror. That is where people usually say, I want to kidnap 200 people in the school, or I want to go to a place and massacre people and kill people. That is not kidnapping again. You know, first if you go to a church, you kill people, and then you take another set of people for kidnapping as collateral damage. So we must see that as three different things happening differently. In terms of Christian genocide, I do not ascribe to this. And the reason why I don't ascribe to this, I might be wrong, but the reason why I don't ascribe to this is that some Muslims have also suffered from the same thing. And I don't think the kidnappers are deliberately targeting Christians. I don't think so.
When you have a situation where any kidnapper, I think during the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, of blessed memory now, it was always reported that any kidnapping taking place in any part of the country is actually the Fulani is perpetrating that. And you even very close to us here in Abeokuta, you were able to, the police apprehended some suspects, and of course they were dressed as Fulani headers, and they went as far as kidnapping people from their locality. And of course, when they were apprehended, they were speaking pure Yoruba, and they have no ties with Fulani. So what about the identity now? How do we fight that part as well? Because a group of people in Nigeria has been tagged, the only group that actually perpetrates that act. How do we differentiate? How do we ensure that the profiling is not helping people that are criminals escape justice when it comes to apprehension?
Thank you very much. And you speak like the peace and conflict expert that you are, because you talked about profiling instead of stereotyping. I think a lot of people have gotten used to stereotyping kidnappers as Fulani herders or Fulani gunmen or Fulani anything. But like I said, a lot of the people who have been apprehended end up not being Fulani. I am not exonerating the Fulani because I have actually been a victim of, at least attempted robbery of liberty that I spoke to. And I'm very sure that the people I encountered were Fulani because they spoke Kukudu. But because they started it, and they got a lot of impetus to do this under Muhammadu Buhari, because he was president of Nigeria. He came to Ibadan before to come and plead their case. And because of that, they got the confidence to do whatever they wanted to do. The criminals have now realized that, look, you can hide under the identity of the Fulani man and do anything. And people will say, it's the Fulani who are doing this. And you can perpetrate your acts and not be caught. But the danger of this is that a lot of people who are not Fulani are doing things they should not be doing, and we are not even suspecting them. So, the duty of intelligence-led operations, technology-led operations, is to make sure that we stop securitizing and stereotyping a particular ethnic identity and look for patterns. We look for behavior. We look for incidents. We look for data. Instead of saying, once it happens, it must be a Fulani man. That has got to stop. Because there are several ethnic identities who are now judged in this. And let me be very let me say this like the last word on that. You cannot kidnap in an area where you don't know the geography very well. You need to know the geography. You need to prepare where to teach somebody. You need to have the logistics to feed that person. And that means you must at least have localized geographical knowledge of that environment. And we also will have that if not somebody who is a native of that environment. So we must not prioritize any particular ethnic identity. We must look for patterns, we must look for technology so that we know who is really responsible for this crime.
Okay. Well, Mr. Adewusi, the federal government has officially designated kidnappers and violent armed groups operating across Nigeria as terrorists. This marks a significant escalation in the country's response to persistent insecurity. So, given this designation, what would change in the kinetic approach? What are expectations?
Okay, thank you. One of my expectations is already been met in the northeast and the northwest. If you approach the onslaught of the Nigerian police on ISWAP and Boko Haram terrorists in the past 3 weeks, you notice that the Nigerian army is not taking it easy at all. The Nigerian army is using both land forces and air power to make sure that these guys understand that there is a good sheriff in town and that we will not even allow them to orchestrate. So that is already happening. Because that is designated as terrorist group, and Nigeria is now saying to whoever has been given us president that we're going to wipe them out. So that's number one. Now let's move to the internal security arrangement. I have not seen enough. I have yet to see enough of very strict decision making and resourcing on the part of the internal security forces to say that they are designated these people as terrorists. I want to see somebody get kidnapped today, and that will be, I want to see that person released, and I want to see 4, 5, 6 people, 10 people that particular crime, and I want them to be in court the next week. And I want the case to be given escalated, expedited hearing. That in 1 month, they are sentenced to life. If not sentenced to, be executed. If you can be on life on death row for the rest of their life, I want that to be a difference to other people, so that And what the Nigerian police have a crack force, supported by the military, supported by DSS, that goes after them and ensures that some of them are neutralized, so that other people want to do that to realize that those tests we are now a terrorist, and because of that we can be neutralized without going to court. That's what I want to see.
Okay, talking about the solution to this, some have said the reason we still have this is because of the economic situation of the country. When people are hungry, they go extra miles to get what to eat. And of course, we also understand that what is going on with kidnapping goes beyond people looking for food alone. There are other, someone said greed is part of what is happening. So what exactly do you think maybe the government or the governors, the local government chairmen of different local governments, and of course the community, the people themselves, not the leaders now, can do to help reduce what we have in our society of today?
Okay, one of the things I see when people talk about kidnappers and terrorists is that people feel that because they are hungry, they have to do what they are doing. I find that deterministic thinking very shallow. And the reason why people say that is because they don't really down to think about some of the people who have been arrested. A lot of the people who have been arrested for kidnapping are not poor people. Some of them have farms. Some need to do very well, but they need life choices that will progress them. Some of them have even made money enough for kidnapping to retire. Some of them were living very ostentatious lives. They were not hungry. So I find it very selective to say that because somebody is hungry, he has to resort to crime. I know that it's a tendency, but it is not everybody that is hungry that has resorted to crime. Having said that, the reason why a lot of people are doing this is because there is no consequence management. And because there is no consequence, people go on with it for like 2 years, take enough money to be able to leave the country, or make enough money to become a rich man, and then take a kidnapping cycle and then launder your money. But let's come to the question of, what can the nation do, what can state and local governments do. The problem with Nigeria is everybody wants to go to school, everybody wants to wear a suit and a tie, and nobody wants to do any of the jobs that we normally would do. If you look at building, now let me take a look at building. If you want to build a structure in Nigeria now, chances are your tilers are going to come from a certain side, from the Benin Republic. Chances are that your POP people are going to come from the Benin Republic. I think the state government, the local government needs to, invest in vocational training. I see a lot of people in Nigeria who don't really want to work. My tailor was telling me 2 weeks ago that 4 of his apprentices left and they joined Yahoo. And they sold in Scotland. How many clothes would you sold before you will be able to make $1 million? And because of that, we need to ensure that we will orientate our youth. That the other way of living is always going to failure of the long run. But looking for easy wealth is a way to do. So that's one of the things we must do. So we orientate our youth away from the criminal path and ensure that we see their work in honest hard work, so that every other person can reach the school. Not kidnap somebody and collect that person's life savings and things to be good for him to splurge in a nice club on the Friday.
All right. Of course, this will be a perfect place to draw the curtains on today's edition of New Dawn, the interview segment. Of course, today is the 24th of December 2025. We want to say thank you to our guest, Mr. Ademola Adewusi, security expert, a border expert, and of course is a member of the Society for Peace Studies and Practice. Thank you so much for always being our guest.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Moses?
Yes, thanks so much for watching. I could say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, yes. We're already in the mood.
We're already in the mood of
exactly.
Christmas. Yes, New Dawn returns on a Friday with another set of anchors. Do have a lovely day. Bye for now.